up, Nubians? Welcome to techn00bians, part of the Geekish Network. This is your weekly deep dive into video games steeped in blackness. For those of you who don't know, we're a live stream and podcast hosted by Black technology professionals where we discuss the what, when, and how you can get into this world of technology, specifically video games. I'm your host, Cherie. And with me today, I've got our man with a million plans, Chuck.
What's up, everyone?
I've got our producer, sleuther, and deducer, Shanae.
Hey, folks. Happy Saturday.
I've got our marksman engineer, Leon.
What's up, people?
And I've got what is that in the background? Like, there's something, I don't know who that
last.
is.
I'm last.
Last but not least, I will say that we got Travis. How are you today, Travis?
Come on.
Yeah. Okay, great. We are here every week to inspire, sustain, and nurture successful creative technologists in the pursuit of Black excellence and content development. Y'all, you know how we do this. We do the news. We do a long topic. This week, with all the Netflix news going on this week, we are talking about streaming. We are talking about streaming, whether it's TV, movies, gaming. That is the topic for today. I don't think we could have missed that anyway. There's way too much going on. So our topic today is streaming, scheming, and straight daydreaming. That's what we're talking about today. And so before we get into that, though, we're going to jump into some tech and gaming news with our news segment, techn00bians. All right, let's kick this off. Leon, can you start this off for us? I think you've got a good story for us.
I do. So mid-June, Sony is basically poised to relaunch their subscription services on 3 different levels, PlayStation Plus Essential, Extra, and Premium, which offer kind of a number of tiered benefits, including games. And this is long overdue because they really need to answer Xbox Game Pass, because I'm sorry, at this point, Xbox Game Pass is frankly the best deal in gaming, and the amount of value that you get from that is just astronomical. Not to mention what Apple's doing with Apple Plus. I think it's Apple Plus. So Apple Arcade rather. So there's been this hole there, and that was missing, and they're looking to address that.
Gotcha. Do we know yet, like, what's going to be part of that service for their revamped PlayStation Plus?
So on the essential level, you get multiplayer, and then you get 2 games that you can download and a various number of discounts. Then there's like extra, which is everything the previous level has, and then you get a catalog of PS4 and PS5 games. And the last one gives you an extra roughly 300 games that goes on top of that. Plus they have streaming from some of their PS2 and PSP games as well. And it sounds like they're going to do some trials and some betas, and there'll be kind of membership path privileges that goes along with that top tier.
Gotcha. So here's the interesting thing, I think. So what I have right now with PlayStation Plus, that suddenly becomes like the bottom tier.
Yep. It's like when you buy a plane ticket and you realize you don't even have access to the overhead compartment. You gotta pay extra for the overhead compartment. You just bought the seat.
Yeah,
what it feels like.
That's a thing.
I think so.
Have you ever flown on Spirit Airlines or Frontier?
No.
Once.
No.
They do have that. It's called I don't remember. It's called Essential or Basic or something that. And you only have access to put something underneath the seat in front of you. I think you don't have access to the overhead unless you pay $30 extra.
There's a credit card reader.
Yeah, Frontier is great. You have to pay for your seat in Frontier, regardless of where you're sitting. You have to pay for a seat. It's awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll stick with Delta.
It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, right. I know, because like PlayStation Essential, like I said, I'm paying $60 a year, right? For my PlayStation account. Now for PlayStation to try and compete with Xbox, you're gonna have to pay still twice as much as what Xbox's like service is, right?
Well, not necessarily, right? So it's $15, $16 a month, I think, for Game Pass.
Okay.
So yeah, it's not free, but look, Game Pass is just kicking ass.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also,
and so I get it, PlayStation. I really do.
Yeah.
But I'm a prisoner of my own success to some degree. Like I can't get the bargain for like services. I really have to press turbo every time I see like services because I don't want there to be a situation where I can't get rude.
Yeah. And also one thing Xbox is introducing, they're about to introduce their ad tier as well. So they're about to even drop Game Pass even lower.
Interesting.
I mean,
wow.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I'm looking at the prices for Game Pass right now too, because I don't even remember which Game Pass tier I have right now.
Ultimate Game Pass is only one tier.
No, well, they've got there's also there's Game Pass for console as well, which is just the console. Ultimate
just get Ultimate Game Pass, get everything.
Well, I mean, I don't need PC. I don't play on PC, so I don't need the PC version of the PC.
See, but that's what I'm saying though. In that case, what you're talking about, Sinead, even if I didn't have a gaming PC, I just buy it.
You just buy it.
For some strange reason.
Me too.
I got a problem.
I do too, Travis. I think it's upper tier.
The first step is admitting you have a problem, Travis.
I mean, look, I've seen him walk into the Apple store. It's not limited to software.
No, but I mean, I think it's. I'm glad that they're finally. That's like you said, it's about time. Like Sony needed to sort of provide something that was an answer to Game Pass. I'm not sure if this is compelling, especially because the lowest tier doesn't actually have any of the extra games. The lowest tier is exactly what I've been getting. It's the exact same service I've been getting from PlayStation Plus for like the last I don't know how many years, 10 years or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of feels like, and it feels like the branding's just off. Like when I think of Game Pass, I don't think of like. I think of the hundreds of games that I can download for free, quotation marks. That's what Game Pass means to me at whatever tier. PlayStation Plus means to me exactly what I've got right now, but now they got PlayStation Plus Essential and PlayStation Plus Extra and PlayStation Plus Premium, and I'm like, that's too many words.
I need that plus.
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I'm like, what's the highest tier called? Is it PlayStation Plus or PlayStation? It just there's some branding stuff going on here that feels a little weird.
Yeah,
I'm not sure if I want.
How much is free, Sharita?
That's an inside joke that no one on this thing is gonna know. But like it's gonna be interesting to see if this actually, it winds up truly competing with Game Pass.
Yeah.
Or if it winds up being something that has to get iterated on a few times, because like the fact that you don't have any taste of some of those free games at the lowest tier sort of makes this feel like it's an unequal offering.
That's the thing that's interesting to me because, like, you know, I said I don't have to do anything, I guess, and I'll just move over to PlayStation Plus Essential. But if you guys want me to convert to something higher, like give me a little taste of something, right?
Look, it's just that simple. It's really not that complicated, right? I remember actually working at PlayStation when the PSN was, just starting to come online. And they'd sit in these meetings and they'd be like, what do gamers want? And we'd all look at them like, so y'all just gonna pretend like Xbox Live doesn't exist? Is that what y'all doing? Right? And so I can only think that the people now at Sony, got in this meeting and said, what do we do? What do we do? And everyone is like, y'all just gonna pretend like Game Pass isn't a thing? Is that what y'all doing now?
Well, at the very least, like I said, it's a first volley, it's a first shot to say like, okay, we're trying to put something out there to stay in competition in this space. So we'll see. I'm probably still going to stay at my essential tier.
the essential, the Ultimate Game Pass is what? $15.99.
It's not the Game Pass thing. Get like regular Game Pass. A Game Pass on Xbox is $14.99 a month for the Ultimate, or $9.99 for me for the for the console version.
Yeah,
but like I'll probably stay at my boring tier until I get a sense of like, okay, what's even going to be available in here? Because if I get the same games that are now available on Game Pass and on PlayStation Plus Premium, that's not going to convince me to get PlayStation Plus Premium. I don't need all these games for free on multiple platforms. So,
well, the Essential is the same price as the Ultimate. They're like, Microsoft's Ultimate, it's just our Essential, it's our extra pass, $14.99. And
there's also an interesting perception of value of, look, you can play 300 PS2 games. Okay, there might be a couple I want to play, but yeah, that inflates your line, but I'm not going to play those games. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I can see myself playing PS4 games, maybe a few PS3, but I gotta really love a game to play a PS2 game in 2022.
yeah. I agree with you. That's why I think the extra is what everybody's gonna go for, because that's the same price as the Game Pass, right?
Yeah.
It's $14.99. Ultimate Game Pass is $14.99. The extras is $14.99. They say, hey, you get PS4 and PS5 games. You get 400 PS4 games.
And everything's
so really what I'm hearing is that there's a tier for irrational people.
Yes. There is a PlayStation
Irrational
Premium.
tier.
That's I mean,
that's
I don't want to go
probably
out on a
every
limb.
tier for
PlayStation
all of
Plus
us.
irrational. I love it. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing I'm kind of interested to see. It took Sony a year to come up with like a competitor here. Like
A year.
well, I mean, how long has it been? Since
About 3 years.
It's been a while.
Okay,
It's been a while.
I don't know. The pandemic makes time has no meaning anymore.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I'm just like, wait till Microsoft like just changes up a little bit of something else, and then Sony's like falls behind again. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
But let's go on to our next story. Speak, because we're still talking about Sony here. Chuck, you got a story for us.
Yeah. So Microsoft, speaking of this, on their Game Pass is like, hey, we want everybody to have the Game Pass, and we're willing to support some ads to give it to people for free. We're going to give you the low tier Hulu version, where we run ads, be it a ticker bar at the bottom or an ad to pop up in your game, or we allow like advertisers to go to match with game creators and put ads in the game. But we're going to give them ads so they can play the games just like everybody else on Game Pass. Is it going to be good or not? I don't know. They may do it where you start the game, you have to go through 90 seconds of ads, and then go and then when you cut off the game, it goes 90 seconds of ads and you cut it off. It's going to be horrible.
For an hour and a half.
But I'm glad they. Yeah, I'm glad they're doing this. I'm really glad they're doing this because they are allowing people that cannot afford it to play the games as well. Not everybody should play like Travis. Not everybody can play like Travis.
Not everyone's balling.
Not everybody's balling when they get PS1 and PS2 games. They're gonna take that tier.
Travis is like, I've got 5 premium subscriptions just because I can.
Yeah, like I need 340 PS1 and PS2 games. I need those games.
You know what? I mean, like when they're talking about the ad supported, I mean, we've all already experienced ad supported games on our mobile phones. So this is not unusual thing. Like it's not an unfamiliar thing. Anyone who's played a free mobile game has probably experienced what an ad supported game is like.
So PlayStation's into this.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting. I think it's a good idea.
Gaming for everyone.
Yeah, it makes it a little more accessible. That said, there's always a dark side to that. We've seen the dark side on the mobile side too, where those ads become more and more invasive, and they become more and more like interrupting and stuff. I don't want to see an ad show up like right. You walk into the boss arena, ad pops up, 90-second ad. Click here, like after you watch it, click here, and then you can fight, the behemoth or something like that.
That's the dark side of this, right?
The dark side.
This really isn't about opening this up for the masses. This is about making the ads so annoying that you're gonna up to the high version, right? As soon as you get ready for that boss fight, like, no, I need you to watch this Justin Bieber ad for 90 seconds.
I think they're probably likely to stick them on loading screens. Is what I would think, or somewhere in there, or at least I hope that they try and make them less intrusive. But I mean, as somebody who whenever I play free to play games on mobile, I I will either buy the game outright if I can, or if it's free to play, I will watch all those ads. I refuse to
And by watch those ads, you mean let those ads play while you're avert your eyes to do anything else.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to speak on this. I need to speak on this because I actually executed a successful ad campaign on a PlayStation platform with an existing title. So when I did Pain on PlayStation 3, we were able to integrate Axe body spray into the actual game itself, where we had custom animations that did the whole Axe body animation. In addition to that, there were whole billboards and panels in the game that were completely destructible, but were ads for recent movies that Sony was, doing, and so on and so forth. So we were generating like ad impressions and things like that inside the game. And so the point I'm really making with this is that you can actually advertise inside of an interactive product in such a way where it actually isn't obtrusive and immerses people, and maybe you can get something more out of it than your traditional sort of ad buys.
Yeah, I think it's fully possible to do it. The question is whether people will do it, whether they'll make it intrusive, whether they'll take the effort to make it non-intrusive, or whether there's gonna be like, let me just throw stuff all over the place.
The answer is yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
There's two things here. The first is Microsoft had the same technology. The platform is called Massive, and you could basically set any billboard or texture in the game could be a rotating ad, just like a web page. We did the same thing, and the fight that we had was just making sure it made sense, right? Like showing Coke ads in Forza was fine. Showing Coke ads in Mass Effect was not fine, right? So it was a matter of the creator putting the kibosh on that. But really, like I definitely hear what you say in terms of integrated ads, but in the case of this service, nobody's going to rebuild their game and your 2-year-old game and run it through certification to support this technology. So the only way this will work is it's going to have to be an interstitial ad or an ad before it runs or executes or something along those lines. And they may be able to get cute with rendering on that, but there's no way no one's recompiling a game for this.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
Right.
Just to build onto what Travis said earlier too, I also worked on a game that integrated ads seamlessly, like in a way which people didn't notice and didn't complain. It was called NASCAR, and that's that's because it's part of the actual real world experience.
Well done.
And the game would have looked weird without it. Like every sports game actually that came out of EA Sports, right? So I mean, here's the thing: like we've this is actually not a new idea. Like they've already played around with this in the past. I remember working on, I don't remember which Madden version it was, but I think there was like a Snickers halftime or something like that. And it was like, it always felt weird. You're like, Snickers halftime? Like,
no, but they do have a Snickers halftime. That's the thing.
It is. It's like real world kind of thing. But it felt a little bit weird in a game. But then we all got over it because like in the end, it was a thing that flew by and it didn't like pause the game and make me wait 90 seconds.
It was not intrusive.
It forced me to interact with it. It was sort of like hey, here's some advertising. Okay, bye. It's like driving by a billboard.
And there's other ways to do things. You know, there's like I worked on Guitar Hero. All the products in Guitar Hero are real, and that was where ad placements. What got unlocked at what tier, what amp you had. They zoomed in on the amp, and that zoom in wasn't just for the camera movement to make it look more dynamic. It was an advertisement that was paid for.
Yamaha
paid for that.
Right away.
You know, they paid for that, and so you know it made it look more like a music video, and people thought, oh, this is a music video. They showed those bands up real close. Yeah, because band paid for that. Fans paid for that.
Yeah, and it's true. And just as Roddy was just mentioning here, all the skins in Fortnite are ad because you always see like there's a new skin that gets dropped in whenever like there's some new movie, some new promo, whatever. It's like, why is Spider-Man in here? Why is the Northman in here? Why is this? It's like, okay, because those movies are just coming out. So, you know, certain platforms that already have like ads very integrated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And these kids don't care. We care because we never saw ads. These kids grew up on games with ads. They've been looking at ads since they've been 3 years old, tapping through on them.
I mean, seriously, like when you were like maybe 10, 11 years old, you know, and we saw like a commercial for like a new Transformer, we were like, yo, that's dope. I gotta get that. Now our 10 or 11-year-old kids are like, look at them marketing to us. You're like, what? Well, if you don't go get this toy.
I mean, I think the thing is, you know, like I said, ads are nothing new. Ultimately, it feels weird for us to start talking about going into games. There's, like I said, there's a light side and there's a dark side. It's really going to depend on how it gets integrated and what are the rules around it. And once they open the door to games, there's always going to be bad actors out there who are going to try and do this really like intrusive stuff. Yeah. So hopefully the rules they set up around it, if this doesn't move forward, the rules they set up around it make sure that it doesn't interfere with the gameplay. in intrusive ways and just
Put some standards around it or something.
Yeah. I don't want to log into my
Amen.
PlayStation Plus and I get hit with the ads the first thing I see. I'm gonna be
Yeah.
angry. Like,
I'm
no.
gonna
Don't
be
show
upset.
me an ad.
When I'm watching Hulu, if I pause anything on Hulu right now, it pops up now and says, "Here's an ad." While you're paused, here's an ad right here.
But you know what though? If you paid that crazy price for that top tier, maybe you wouldn't see that ad.
It's true. It's true.
You see what I did?
I see what you did there. Okay, so speaking, by the way, we were talking about like what it was like when we were kids. I just want to bring up like a little bit more of nostalgia. So there's a story that Sega is currently working on reboots of Crazy Taxi and Jet Grind Radio or Jet Set Radio, whichever you want to call it. I'm just super excited about this because like I loved both of those games. I mean, I still have my Dreamcast hooked up over here to my TV. I will say, I tried during the pandemic. I mean, like during the actual like shelter in place part of the pandemic, I did bust out I actually did like bust out all my old Dreamcast games and I started playing Jet Grind Radio. It is basically unplayable. I'm just going to mention that. I love the game, but like the control, like trying to use like the controller, it's just like, I'm so used to so much more precise movement.
Oh, no.
So it was horrible. It was a horrible experience. I was getting shot up by the cops constantly. So it's just like real life. But also Crazy Taxi. Also, I had to throw that in there. Also loved Crazy Taxi. I actually just bought a game that was on sale probably about a month ago. It was called Snaky Bus. I should have known.
What?
It's a terrible name, Snaky
Trying
Bus.
to get some Crazy Taxi vibes, huh?
It was your bus, and you go pick up passengers, and as you pick up more passengers, your bus gets longer, and it becomes a really long snake, and so it's called Snaky Bus. I was hoping to get Crazy Taxi.
Grotesque.
Sounds horrible. But I get it. Go on and tell us about it.
It was terrible. It was really terrible. I mean, because like eventually you have
The description sounds terrible.
That's what it is. You have a bus that's just crazy long. You have to keep dodging like the parts of your bus to go pick up other passengers.
So it's Snake meets Crazy Taxi.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yo, whoever was smoking weed
I'm a little
when they made that
You
game.
paid money for this?
I was looking for Samuel Jackson.
You paid money for Snaky Bus.
It was on sale. It cost me
Oh my God, you did pay for Snaky
and
Bus.
I actually got it for free. because I just like Nintendo points with it. But I will say, I was expecting to at least get like 15, 20 minutes of good gameplay out of it. It was
minute and a half.
Did you have to spend those Nintendo points?
I didn't have to, but
you want to give that independent developer some money. I get it. You did it for the
back
culture.
around to the original story, y'all, that I don't want to get lost here. Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, Jet Grind Radio are getting reboots.
Are coming back.
Awesome.
And I'm very much hoping that they, I mean, like they're reboots of it. So it's not just going to be like ports or whatever for it. So I'm looking,
they can give me a port too.
Oh no.
Just improve. They got to improve the controls. They really got to,
I am a Sega fanboy. They've always been ahead of their time. As far as games are concerned, like even growing up, like I associated Sega with cool. You know what I'm saying?
Since the Master System.
Yeah. So the fact that they're finding their stride right about now. Amen.
I hope.
Yeah. Let's do this, Sega.
I would love for them to drop another console.
Ooh, incidentally, I think we've gotten just another nugget, like another clue as to the etymology of Travis's Nintendo hate, because it sounds like you were a Sega kid. I was a Nintendo kid. Cherie was a Nintendo kid. I remember the like Sega does what Nintendo don't, right?
Nintendo.
That's your mantra. Right. I know it. Like you got.
It did though. It did.
This was before Travis had that premium service money.
Yeah.
Nintendo had a robot that worked on one game. Had 3D
Rob the robot. I never
3D glasses.
My parents knew better than to buy that.
Cartridges. We had a card and we had a cartridge.
My parents knew a gimmick when they saw one. They did not get me a Rob.
All my friends got Rob the robot and used him one time.
No, we did not get.
Got robbed by a robot.
We had the
Rob right there.
We had the friends who had the Sega we had the Nintendo. They had the Sega Genesis. We had another friend who had like a Super Scope 6 and stuff like that too. So it's always like, whose house are you going to? What are we playing today?
Yeah.
So we had like the full sort of gaming experience across multiple households, not all in the same household.
Now people just come to your house.
Yeah.
I mean, they can. They want to do. They want to bust out some Rock Band. I got tiny plastic drum kits here. They're just wanting to get wailed on.
Yes. If anyone wants to come and play like Generations of Gaming and stuff like that, yeah, now folks can come to our house. Okay, let us jump onto our last story for the day before we get into our long topic. Shanae, I think you got a story for us.
I do have a story. Let's just tell you just everyone's got Netflix, right? All of you guys have Netflix. I've had Netflix for many, many years. I signed up for Netflix. I remember my story where I finally signed up for Netflix. I said, as soon as they make Star Trek available, I'll sign up for Netflix. And when they made it available, I made good on that. I signed up for Netflix. I've had it ever since Deep Space Nine was available. It looks like they've been having a little bit of trouble lately. Netflix lost 200,000 subscribers in the January to March timeframe. They lost 600,000 subscribers when they pulled out of Russia, understandably because of the Russo-Ukrainian war that's going on right now. So they're actually on track to lose they suspect 2 million subscribers in the first half of this year. And that's a lot. That's more than they've lost, I think, since something like 2012, like since when they actually like split the plan. So it was like the physical DVD plan and the streaming plan used to be one plan, and they made a decision to split those in two separate plans. They lost a ton of subscribers then. This is the second biggest subscriber loss since that. And that was almost a decade ago, maybe more than a decade ago. So, yeah, and I think a lot of this is like folks have like all kinds of like reasons as to why they think Netflix subscriber numbers are going down from the price hike that just happened. I think they did two price hikes in 2021, if I recall correctly, actually. So there's several price hikes to the sort of rumors that they might start cracking down on people sharing passwords. Yeah. And all of that is culminating in what we're seeing right now, which is subscriber numbers are going farther down than they have in a while.
It's tough out here in the streaming streets. I'm telling you,
it is. Let's be honest. At the end of the day, people tune in to stream stuff. I mean, Netflix is they understood people stream for just the show. They'll sign back up just for the show. Drink that show up in like a week, then sign back off.
Well, it don't matter because they go cancel that show after 2 episodes.
Well, and the other thing is, like, let's back 3-4 years ago, 5 years ago, you had Netflix, you might have had Hulu, and like what? Now I've got Netflix, I have Hulu, I have Disney Plus, I have Amazon Prime, I have Paramount Plus. Did I miss one in there? Peacock. Like there's so
Discovery.
many HBO Max. Like there's so many streaming services out there.
Showmax.
And suddenly I'm paying like $7.99 a month, like $12.99 a month for all these individual streaming services. It doesn't matter if I have cable, whether you cancel cable or not. You basically are paying for cable all over again, right? And I think that there's something to be said that Netflix has raised, provides an awesome product, but they've raised their prices a lot. I pay $7.99 a month for Disney Plus. I pay $15.49 for Netflix. Is Netflix twice as good as Disney Plus right now? I don't know. Like, it really made me sort of question as to whether or not I need to keep my Netflix subscription for the first time in like 10 years.
Yeah, they had to come out with hits. They got to start making more hits.
That's what I was going to say.
That's what everybody needs is hits.
That's what I was going to say.
HBO Max knows they give you 2 shows a year. We launch 4 new shows a year. 2 of those you're going to like. The other 2, you're not going to be into. We understand that. We understand that.
They do have their recurring shows like that too. That people and subscribers, and tons of movies. Like the whole WB movie deal has been huge. Like the Batman is on HBO Max, which I'll probably rewatch and probably still not like. But I'm glad it's there that I can go and watch it.
Because WB owns it, you know, and Netflix doesn't throw anything in theaters, so it doesn't get that big marketing push, and people feel like they missed out. They have to get it.
And I missed one of the streaming services, Apple Plus. Do not sleep on Apple Plus.
Amazon Prime.
They had Coda. They had Coda that they just got tons of awards for. Severance is definitely going to get all of the awards
Mankind
next year.
Was outstanding.
There's some serious competitors. Netflix used to be the only only real competitor, the big 800-pound gorilla, and now there's some serious competitors out there.
There's also a poison pill if you bring your show to Netflix, right? So if you're on Netflix and they cancel you, you can't take that show somewhere else.
No, you can't.
Right. So, at least when, they killed The Expanse, Bezos was like, I'm gonna stop that up real quick, and it moved to Prime. And it was great. Whereas if your show's on Netflix, it's just like, yeah, we're canceling you. And sorry, whatever fan base you have, they can't go watch this somewhere else.
That's
and
just it.
I think some creators are like, I don't want that headache because I don't have to have it anymore. Hello, Paramount Plus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah. And the other thing is, I mean, I think, like you said, there's very complicated reasons and a lot of things that kind of play into why Netflix is probably, lost like 25% of their of their value over the last year. Yeah, huge drop in their stock price. But one of the things is just content is king with
content is king.
They say that so much of the time. I mean, I actually was really, and I think a lot of people were really love the fact that like Netflix would that they picked up some canceled series, right? So like the Karate Kid canceled series, Cobra Kai. Like YouTube Red or whatever it was or something like that, and they picked it up and like, we're gonna give you another season. Now we're gonna give you another season. That's what I want to see.
Yes.
Do. Like I feel like that would probably be at least a way to get better.
We may see that strategy.
that would be an interesting strategy.
Their company evolves faster than traditional studios because they're a tech company. So they're like, you know what? Let's bring back some of these shows that people really wanted.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
But I think
the thing that Leon mentioned.
Well, I just mentioned this last comment. I said the thing I think that Netflix has also gotten a little bit away from is they created the whole concept of really binge watching, and it's like, why have you gotten away from that? They've given me a lot of movies, but like they're not giving me a lot of like new series where I'm like, I need to watch I need to have Netflix so I can watch whatever this series is. I'm going over to Disney Plus.
You know why they've gotten away from that? They've got away from that because like the whole concept of binge watching is great, and then the pandemic happened, and they had literally like hundreds of thousands of shows, and like no one's ever gonna get through this. Well, how about this? How about everybody has to stay home for 2 years? Suddenly, all that content they had, it's like, oh, everyone actually is getting through all the content, and they couldn't keep up with demand. So suddenly, it's like we're going back to like a one episode per week sort of like situation for like all the streaming services, right? Disney Plus introduced that immediately.
Netflix won't do it. I think they're gonna stick with the binge. They're gonna stick with the binge and cancel a series at the first season fails, like Leon says. But they may pull away from that. They may have to pull away from that because they got to realize a first season is somebody getting the running legs. They still got their sea legs under them. It's usually the second and third season when something hits the stride. I think Netflix would have canceled The Wire. They would have canceled The Wire.
Star Trek: Next
Generation.
Next Generation. They would have canceled it. There's a bunch of shows they would have canceled because they couldn't get through the first season.
Absolutely. And some of those shows would have deserved it.
What's going on and what no one seems to be mentioning, at least as far as I know in this whole conversation, is how accessible content is now. More so than it has ever been, right? Like, Netflix won because it was more accessible. Even when it came to your CDs, send it back when you can. It was accessible. Everything was accessible. Now, all our movies, all our TV shows, all the things, all the media is now readily accessible. Right. So Netflix isn't as unique as it used to be. Okay. Yeah. And because of that, its uniqueness or its lack thereof is starting to be felt universally.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know if I think it poses an interesting challenge to Netflix because they got there because they were innovative. Right. So what are they going to do next? Okay. And spoiler alert, it's not games, not like that.
No, very, very true. So and actually speaking of this, we have our long topic today, which is about, it's obviously it's inspired by what's happening with Netflix, but also CNN Plus tanked, or I shouldn't say they're tanked. They were just canceled. They pulled the plug on them after what, like 3-4 weeks?
They pulled the plug on them like they were a series on Netflix.
Yeah, like they were
a few episodes in.
Exactly. So it's just like what we wanted to talk about today is, all these streaming services. I mean, starting with Netflix and stuff like that, CNN Plus. Is there?
Can I start?
I feel like we're it feels like everything's getting crowded out and stuff like that. So
can I start with a question though? I mean, and this is a serious question here, okay? Like, and you're talking to a cat who goes to sleep usually with news on, right? Like almost every night, okay? Mm-hmm. What the hell is a CNN Plus? Because
you'll never know.
I like what. What?
No, I got the answer.
Do they remix it? Is it like does Alanis Morissette come out and tell you like the weather? Why would I need that?
Because when they're having a really interesting in-depth story and conversation, and then they go, but we got to leave it there. See, on CNN Plus, they don't leave it there. They keep going.
Okay.
But now they're forced to leave it there.
Now it's gone. Now
nobody wants that.
Well, there's always been a lot of streaming service. We just see them up. There's a bunch of them pops up. I subscribe to so many streaming services it would scare you.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
From High Dive to Brown Sugar to Shudder to IFC to Epix. There's so many AMC Plus. There's so many.
Yeah, but it's the news, Chuck. Like
it is.
News plus.
I don't even go to television for the news.
I get extra news with my news.
You know where I go for news? I go to two places.
What are you hiding normally?
So let me back up here for just a moment when we're talking about the streaming services like that, right? Because and specifically talking a little bit about like Netflix and like what their solutions are that they're looking at. Like Shanae talked a little bit about like one of the things they blamed their dip. I call it dip, but it was really like, I don't know, it was just a crash.
That's not a dip.
Yeah, it wasn't a dip. It was like
dip is a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, I was trying to be diplomatic there. But one of the things they blamed it on was a lot of people doing account sharing. And it's just kind of interesting though, because it's like, I think that companies get into this place where you feel like, well, we should always be able to grow. We should always be able to have more customers. What do you do when you've got everybody?
That's where they were at, right?
We used to see this with, this was also the argument of software piracy, right? Which was, well, if they didn't pirate that game, they would have bought it. Not necessarily.
That's not the truth,
right? Like it's like, well, if you're gonna hand this to me for free, I just got Uncle Tom's or Uncle Joe's, Netflix account. So yeah, I'm gonna watch Lost in Space. I ain't gonna pay for that. I got.
It's worth noting, Uncle Tom does not share his Netflix password.
He's a damn Uncle Tom.
Damn Uncle Tom.
But no, I mean that's like I think you're absolutely right. Like every pirate using just to use this as a term is not a future customer.
Yeah.
And it's a fallacy. I'm not even sure it's a fallacy that people even believe. Even 20% of them, I think that they believe like, hey, you know what? You've got lots of people who share passwords. And in fact, Netflix, if you go back and not too far in their tweets, they even supported it. They talked about I think they tweeted on like Valentine's Day or something that one day, true love is sharing your password.
And it's like still going up, right?
Yeah, the growth was still going up, but so suddenly you see how a corporate strategy may change when you suddenly get that plateau. The other point is that where they're seeing growth is in international markets. The US market is incredibly saturated because they've been around the longest and they've been the best known, and they sort of pioneered a lot of this stuff, like a lot of the streaming services in this space, and they've sort of reached this plateau. Everyone who is going to buy a Netflix account has sort of bought one, and anyone who's not going to buy one has a password from someone who else who's bought one. And so now they're looking to try and see if they can convert some of those password shares into paying customers. And I'm kind of skeptical that they're going to be able to turn that around in even a significant amount, besides just backlash of people
really thought about, which I think is interesting, is why don't you give someone incentive for not sharing their password, right? Like, what do you do instead? Like, you know what I'm saying? So for real,
rewarding Uncle Tom. Why are we rewarding Uncle Tom?
Hey, because the other way ain't gonna work. Trust me.
Just two quick comments. One, actually, Travis has a good point because people don't share their Xbox Live account or their PSN account, because that's personal, right? That's personal experience and identity that comes into those. But I think to Janae's point about the growth, right? This is why certain tech companies are looking to do satellite-based internet for places with no infrastructure, like, you know, like parts of India and Africa, right? Like there's entire continents where you don't have people that are customers, they can't get the product. So it's like, okay, well, how can we get it to them? Can we invest in fiber optic or cellular or satellite-based technologies? Because then once all of Africa is online, you bet you they're going to be watching FIFA, right? Because they're into that.
I love that we're so interested in building infrastructure in places so that we can sell them things.
Of course.
Yeah.
Why else would we be there?
Betterments of society and humankind. I don't know. I'm a Star Trek fan. So.
We're here.
I just want to sell you things.
Yeah, we're here. Buy some games.
I do want to make a note, by the way. Like you're right, Leon. Like people don't share like their Xbox passwords and stuff like, you know. But I think there's a little bit of a difference there, because like, and maybe that's something that Netflix needs to kind of like latch on or something too, because like right now it's like for like Xbox, like I don't want to share my stuff because like I got my points. I got all these things that are attached to it for my game, so I can kind of show like how great I am, you know, or how much I suck at whatever particular game. For like Netflix, I think the worst I might get, like by sharing my password, is like I might start getting recommendations for things I don't want if my dad or someone's like looking at it. And that's not enough to dissuade me from sharing my password. I'll just be like, okay, like let me just remove that, or I don't care about it. But if there's some other way, some kind of leaderboard or something they could figure out, that might be incentive. The other thing I think might be interesting is what if they just like actually embraced it? Like, let's talk about like Apple and the family sharing. They have embraced it, you know, like you don't hear Apple being like, don't share this password. They're like, no, anything you purchase, if they're on your little family circle or whatever, everyone on there gets it. So I'd be interested to see like if rather than going the route that like, for instance, the recording industry of America back when like Napster and all that stuff was like big, and they were like, we're going to sue our customers to make them customers, rather than like, you know, Netflix going the route of like, let's punish our customers to make them customers. What if they found like a way to actually embrace it? Because this is clearly what customers want. That's the other thing. So what do folks think about this? Like with Apple's plan, and like, what's the difference between what Apple's doing and like what Netflix is doing?
There have been talks like that at Netflix where they talked about having family plans and stuff like that. They've been thinking about this 10 years ago on how to do this. And they had that right now. People care to forget Netflix had 253 million people as subscribers. Losing 200,000 is not bad when you're 100 million more than everybody else. When you combine everybody else, they equal to you. So there's like, oh, we lost 200. That's like Coke saying we lost 200,000 Coke drinkers. They're like, all right, it hurts because Wall Street made it hurt. But they have time to figure it out. You know, people care to forget they just dropped 90 billion into new content for television. They're like, we'll kill the animation department. We're going to drop 90 billion into television.
Yeah.
And they're making content around the world too. So they still have all those projects going because they realize there's not going to be 260 million people in America that support Netflix overall. They have to go elsewhere, you know, and continent of Africa, 54 countries is going to have Netflix at $3 a month for it. The same with India, it's $3 a month. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
Because they do have tiers that are cheaper for other places.
Yeah.
I think Apple gets away with it because, you know, Apple sells high margin hardware, right? Like that's ultimately their primary business. And this isn't a new thing, right? We call these loss leaders, right? This is why I can go in and buy a CD at Target, or back when we buy CDs, right? A CD at Target was $7.99 because they know you're gonna buy some toilet paper and you know, a shirt and 5 other things on the end cap before you get out. So you went in and spent $7.99 and you spent $59.43, right? So Apple's saying, yeah, we're giving away our online services. We want you to get an Apple TV. We want you to get an iPhone with 256 gigs of memory because Travis can't help himself, and a $3,000 iMac, right? That's what they're looking at. They're like, yeah, you know what? You can have your $20 Apple Plus subscription. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
like Apple is about it is all about customer service like that. It's the reason why you walk into, Apple Store, the Genius Bar, and you're like, "Hey, my iPhone is doing weird things." They're like, "Here, have another one." You're like, "Wait, what? You're just giving me a new phone?" You're like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like we're doing that because you're gonna go and you're gonna tell that story about how you walked in with a tiny problem, you got a new phone. You're gonna tell it to like half a dozen people who are gonna tell it to half a dozen other people. And then
Apple
suddenly,
more so than,
like the myth of Applebee feels like it becomes like a positive reality kind of thing.
I just realized this. Like honestly, like Apple's slogan really should be "Don't worry about it." Right?
Yeah. I have friends that don't have cases on their
like
iPhone.
down to practically everything. You know what I'm saying? Like seriously, like sometimes like you're working on a document on a Mac and you save it and you're like, where did my file go? Don't worry about it. Hey, this is broken. How am I gonna? Don't worry about it. Oh, like how do I set up this? Don't worry about it. Like that's Apple.
but to go back to Shree's point earlier, you asked the question of like, why don't more companies? Why doesn't Netflix? Why aren't they considering going that whole embracing of the the shared ecosystem, the shared passwords like that too? And they did, but there are other solutions out there, but it's hard to be totally honest. Like they're in a situation where the market is saturated. Like they have, like there are probably there are very few people who are actual potential customers out there, and so the route they're going is saying like, well, let's go find people who are already watching Netflix, right? Because they are customers, even though we're not getting explicit dollars from them. And instead, they have a path that they can travel at this point. And this goes to what Travis was talking about earlier: ease of use and accessibility. Part of the reason why all this streaming stuff has become so incredibly popular now is because I can be riding the cow train, God help me. I could be riding the cow train and decide, I want to watch the new episode, the new season opener for Better Call Saul. And I could pull it up on my phone and watch it on the cow train, like on my way home. Couldn't do that 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That was Star Trek level of like, like future thinking and stuff.
Should I be concerned that I just got an email from Netflix?
Maybe, possibly. I don't know.
Right,
who are you sharing your password with right now, Travis?
Yeah.
But I mean, simply put, like it is really hard to come up with like to actually figure out how do you incentivize people to spend money when they're already currently getting value when they're not spending money. And that's a really hard nut to crack. I think that the route they're going is, sure, it's a potential option, like clearly, like, and they've already rolled some of this out in like various places in South America, clearly found that there was some value there. Maybe we're completely misjudging what the American public's going to do. Maybe all 200,000, however many people are going to become immediate Netflix subscribers. I highly doubt it.
I'm not going to.
Because even if Netflix says that you can't share anymore, Disney Plus says I can, and Apple TV says I can, and Amazon Prime says I can.
Yeah.
So you might wind up just pushing people into competitive products.
Can I mention, by the way, I think what they need to do, I mean, I think you always run into problems as a company when your solution is to try and move backwards to something else, right? Yeah. So like, okay, this is the thing. I think this is where I feel like Netflix needs to, like, rather than kind of looking at it and being like, well, we got 200,000 people or however many thousand people who are like just sharing passwords, like figure out a way to move forward and innovate with that and accept it or whatever, right? So I wanted just to relate this to games. I think of when EA came up with their online pass, right? Because EA was like, you know what? We have all these people who are going out and instead of buying the new version of Madden or whatever, they're going out and they're buying the used copy a week later for like, $5 off or something like that. But they're still using our servers. They're still using all our infrastructure, but we're not getting any of that money because we already sold that game once. And so what did EA do? They're like, we're going to charge you if you want to play online. I thought that was smart because it was like, okay, this is a way for us to actually get money from people who are using our service, but it's not us whining and complaining that like, well, why didn't I get any money because someone bought a used copy. It's like, no, I'm actually offering some value to this company or to this customer, and they can choose to, if they don't want to play online, totally fine. They bought their used copy of the game. I don't get any money, but if they want to play online, I get money from it. And that's why I think that Netflix needs to kind of think about in terms of like how they want to move forward. I think if they rely solely on the like, we got to figure out a way to make customers who are like, we're not giving them any additional value. All we're doing is trying to charge them money. I don't think that's going to fly.
The feeling right now is that people like that Netflix wants to take something from people, something that they've already gotten behind. They've said, hey, this is a great idea. Like they joked about it on Twitter, and it's just a thing that people do. People share Netflix passwords. So when they're saying that they're not going to let you do that anymore, it feels like they're trying to take something. Yeah. What if they went a route where they're just like, hey, primary subscribers get exclusive behind the scenes content of something, right?
Yeah.
Primary subscribers get, some other bonus thing. Like that's a way to make it feel like, okay, well, my friends who have the shared passwords are they're still getting the primary Netflix stuff, but as a primary subscriber, maybe I get a little bit more of something. That feels better than suddenly going backwards in time, I guess.
Yeah.
I think they need to figure it out because you have 200 million subscriptions. Everybody's sharing a Netflix account with at least 3 people.
Yeah.
That's 600 million people that's out there with accounts. And they set it up that way. You gave me 5 profiles on my one login. That you just told me I can share my account.
Yeah.
And you have to condone that. You just accept it and just figure out what else can we get on top of that. People enjoy watching Netflix. You've already set up 2 screens maximum and 1 IP address, blah, blah, blah. Nobody cares about that. We'll find ways around that. But yeah, I mean, you already gave me 5 profiles to log into, so I'm assuming I can loan it out to 5 people.
Yep. There's not 5 people in this household.
Let me go on and do that. And God forbids, I have friends that have 20 people on one account. They're like, I don't even know whose Netflix account I'm on.
So you're the reason why they're making this decision.
I know. No, my account only has one. I only have one person, and it's me because my account's somewhat different than a lot of people's. But other people, they have they're cross.
Other people.
Yeah, other people.
My friend does this.
I have friends that don't even know whose account they're on.
A friend who shares
what's your Netflix account
password?
I was like, they're like, oh, I share so-and-so's profile. They got it from one of their friends who got it from one of their friends. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So just bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think the solution to a lot of this, and I think that it crosses media, actually, is to discover what kind of universal sort of currency are we going to use to grant basically digital rights. You see, because the more things are connected digitally, the more it behooves everyone to sort of use this metaverse or universal sort of transactional system, right? So if I want access, because that's really what we're paying for now, we're paying for access, then I should be billed for, a Warner Discovery access, Disney access, EA access, Sony access, or so on and so forth. And if that is the case, I need to have access wherever I am, right? And so that means that if I go to Chuck's house, I should be able to play on his PlayStation because I have access. Same way as Leon, and it happens, but it's not a smooth transition of things now, and I think that's where we need to go to eventually, right? Because I think that once that happens, I think all of these problems that we're having will be mitigated because it's a personal thing. You see what I'm saying? And if I am in a location that has a television, then then everyone here has HBO until I leave.
Yes.
See what I'm saying?
And then they will all get a $1 charge on their credit card.
We do need
yeah. But what I'm saying is that when you have everyone as a customer, you don't need to worry about that, right? Because everyone might be just giving you $1. Because if you got everybody in America, you can kind of do that.
Yeah, I think it's essentially is the problem of the metaverse, right? Where it's just like, what is the incentive for companies to do this, to try and make it easier for you to watch someone else's product somewhere else, as opposed to being like, no, you can't watch it over at his house. You got to watch whatever he's got, That's always a trouble we're going to run into until we can. I want to get to that Star Trek universe.
And let's not even get to, like, we're just talking about going over to Chuck's house, going to Travis' house. What about going to an overseas friend's house? Let's not even talking about trying to see how this whole thing is going to work when you're not even in like the United States of America. That's just
Yeah,
we're now in the year 3000.
But Sinead, that's sort of a perceived problem, right? Because I can download a movie now currently, right, to my hard drive, go anywhere in the universe and hit play.
It's a perceived problem, but it's also a real problem, right? Because we're not talking about downloading something locally. We're talking about, like, if it's talking about downloading, like, we can do all of that right now. We're talking about cloud services and me just having like entitlements when I walk through someone's door, and that's hard enough for us to do, like, in the States. How about when I was in Shanghai trying to watch the season finale, the series finale of Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah,
from our hotel room, which we did.
I couldn't wait for that. Sorry,
took lots of VPNing to make it happen. But like once we get to a point where we can do that without having to like end around things and figure out how to, like, pull magic out of the air, that's when we'll, I think, truly have won, and that'll be the year 3000, I think, by the way.
I mean, the thing that comes to mind is this, right? Is that every great disruptor eventually gets disrupted themselves. And I would argue in the last 50 years, Netflix was one of the biggest disruptors on how we consume entertainment, period, right? Just look, they destroyed Blockbuster, right? So the fact that they're now on the verge of potentially being disrupted actually isn't surprising. Now, if you're slick about that, you make sure the person that replaces you is you, like Apple, right? Apple said, don't nobody want iPods no more. They just want iPhones. Let's just make sure everything there is on their phone. So they disrupted themselves, right? That's the best model. Like, if you can look forward ahead and determine that. So yeah, I mean, I'm not really surprised. Blockbuster execs are sitting up there laughing, and Netflix like, And
to bring it around to games for one more second, Nintendo disrupted themselves with the 3DS, disrupted the Switch, or the 3DS with the Switch. So
exactly.
Just some Nintendo love on the end of the podcast.
The best way
on Travis.
The best way to tie up our podcast. Well, I mean, I know we could talk about this for quite a while here, right? Because I really want to see what happens, what's going on with what's going to happen with Netflix. And if they're going to try and follow their customers, or if they're going to try and drag their customers kicking and screaming to wherever they next go. But I think also it'll be interesting to watch and see, like, what model they follow, and like what other streaming companies do if Netflix, leads the way. Well, let's see what they end up doing. But great conversation, everybody. I really appreciate it. I'm sure we can talk. We'll probably be talking about this again, because whenever Netflix makes their decision, I'm sure that's going to have like big ripples. It's going to have a big yeah, for sure. So right now, I just want to go ahead and give a shout out to Digital Click for all the creative they provide for us for each and every show. If you want to learn more about techn00bians, then hit up our website at techn00bians.com. That's techn00bians.com. Please follow us on our socials. And if you like our vibe, and we know that you do, and you want to learn more about game development and everything geek, subscribe to our channel. Like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening. And please share our show. Seasons 1 and 2 of all episodes, seasons 1 and 2 episodes are all streaming right now. Also, follow the Geekish Network on all major platforms, and come see what else geek we're talking about this upcoming week on the Geekish Network. This Monday, they're going to have Pod Squadron at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, followed by Geek Beast at 7:30 p.m. That's it for now, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.